In this module part 2 of module 9, The Age of Prejudice, we're going to be looking at children in prejudice. And to recognize differences in others, a child must also be involved in self-identification. What we know is that by the time a child is 2 to 3 years old, he's becoming aware of skin color, his hair texture, eye shape and color, as well as other physical characteristics. And he's aware of gender differences. He may be able to notice physical differences, such as a person using a wheelchair. He starts to differentiate concepts about physical features with respect to motor performances, such as I have really long hair, I can jump high, I can run fast. They begin to be aware of gender, like what clothing people are quote unquote supposed to wear, behavior of various genders, what big brothers do, what little sisters do. They may also be aware of ethnic identity, noticing different smells of food choices, different practices, languages, and they may begin to show signs of pre-prejudices. And this can be reinforced by biases. So even as young as 2 and 3, pre-prejudices can begin. This is really important knowledge for parents and early child care providers. 3 and 4 year olds, they want to know why we're different. They're aware of their own differences and physical differences in others. They want to know how they got their skin and eye, hair, and color. They want to know why racial group colors are different. So it says that I'm black, but my skin is brown. I don't get that. Um, they may be curious about variations within their extended family. I remember asking why I always had a suntan. My skin is much darker than my brother's and it's darker than my mom's. But if I looked at my dad, I could see that his skin tones and my skin tones are similar. Interestingly, when I was teaching English as a second language, some of my preschooler children would, those who spoke Spanish, would oftentimes be really challenged by the fact that I could not speak Spanish in the same way that they could and that their parents could, because they'd look at my skin tone and they'd say, but you're brown like me. So they start to see variations between people and have expectations about what people can and can't do based on their skin color. They may be asking about different religious beliefs and why can't he celebrate his birthday, or why can't he celebrate Christmas, or what is Hanukkah. They wonder if everything's going to stay constant. I remember when Hannah asked if she was ever going to grow a tail and be like her brother. Um, she wasn't quite sure that this whole idea of not having a tail was what? She was not sure about that. And yeah, there's that, am I going to change? Is it fluid? And that starts to solidify during this time period when they realize that, oh, I'm going to be the same. I'm going to be the same color. I'm going to be the same gender. They may ask about physical disabilities and question whether or not it's similar to them. One of my stories that I like to share is about when Hannah was in kindergarten and a little girl came in and she was missing an arm, and she came bounding into her classroom. She was in a late start, and the students had already formed a community, but when little Cassandra came running into the classroom, she didn't have an arm, and immediately the children were like, oh, she doesn't have an arm. And the instructor at the time said to these children, shh, she's just like you, whereby the children were silenced and frightened as they're looking at their 2 hands and wondering, what? She's not just like us. And why aren't we talking about this? Interesting way to handle that. 5-year-olds. 5-year-olds start to understand their ethnic identity. They know when people are like them. They understand when religions are like them. They can see the scope of differences. And if there is a prejudice that was a pre-prejudice back when they were 2, it is solidified now into a prejudice by the time they're 5 if there haven't been adequate interventions. Super important for us to realize that. They become more familiar with family traditions of what we do, and there might even be a sense of right and wrong, and that needs to be addressed as well if we're going to avoid prejudice and discrimination down the road. The, the highest pre-prejudice ages is during the ages 4 to 7, when they're really in concrete operational thinking, when it's all good or all bad. So, and what we know is that parents can be such beautiful influences on their children before they're age 7, but mostly after they're age 7, when they can intervene and stop the prejudice responses and reduce discriminatory actions dramatically and set good modeling. So, good role modeling from parents is extraordinarily powerful. Some of the concepts that affect children's attitudes and prejudice is a we versus they. When parents start talking about this is what we do, that's what they do, and put a value on it. As I stated, family, parents have the greatest influence on children over the age of 7. The age of 7 will be more biased and less open-minded, and so parents can have an impact on altering that train of thought. Television, education, religion all play a huge role in how the child is going to view himself and his community. Who it is that the child is able to select as a friend, that plays a really high role in how a child is going to see himself with respect to the larger community. If the children only are able to play with those who have the same belief systems or the same color or the same race or ethnicity, they might be limited in their diverse thought. Social status, that oftentimes comes with poverty or education, and education, as number 6 states. Parents who have higher levels of education oftentimes invoke higher levels of diversity in their children. They see that as being a plus, and will typically more likely allow them to have that sense of diversity. Status, the more power we have, the more likely we are to use our power. And we know that in some of our prior conversations, we do have people who don't have a say or have been silenced, I should say. And that can limit then the diverse thought, and it can cause higher levels of prejudice or oppression, responses to oppression.